And our next guest this morning is Mamuka Mamulashvili from the Georgian National Legion. Mamuka, a pleasure to see you. It's been quite a while. Thanks so much for coming back on at TVP World. All right.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure for me to speak to you always, and it's interesting to talk about ongoing processes in Georgia.
Of course. I mean, you and your men, you've been fighting for freedom in Ukraine for over 2 years now. But now, freedom in your home country of Georgia could be in danger. I wonder, what's your take on what's happening out there?
Actually, Georgian Legion exists in Ukraine more than 10 years already. We became 10 years in April of 2024, so we're fighting here for quite a long time, from the very beginning of the Russian invasion in 2014. Okay, the processes in Georgia are quite difficult right now. You know, we see unprecedented number of crowd in the streets. It's Georgians that are protesting against pro-Russian government, that are protesting against pro-Russian law. And it's Georgian, I would say, Russian government in Georgia, because Georgian government actually is occupied by Russia right now. And they're provocating actually destabilization in Georgia. And I'm sure it's dictated by Russia.
And do you think that perhaps, as you mentioned, that there is a destabilization, and according to, to quote you, that we do see major Russian influence in Georgia? Do you feel like perhaps these protests happening currently in your country might be the first step to perhaps change the government whatsoever?
Oh, actually, you know, it's the totally unpoliticized protests. There are, you know, students and just Georgian society who is standing out and trying to make government do whatever our society wants to. They don't want to turn from the democratic way, and they don't want Russian influence in Georgia. That's why more than 500,000 of people are standing, you know, 1 week in a street and protesting against Georgian government. Most probably, yes, Georgian society wants to make a peaceful political change in Georgia, because the government that we currently have, it's vivid that they are taking Georgia into undemocratic ways. There are more than 200 protesters in jail right now. We have more than 1,000 political prisoners in Georgia, and it says that Russian influence is getting, you know, more hard in Georgia. Unfortunately, that's the reality of Georgia, and it is extremely important for us not to repeat the same mistakes that governments did in the 90s after the collapse of former Soviet Union, when we had civil war, and it is totally unacceptable for Georgian society to repeat such step what was taken in 90s. So we as a Georgian Legion are standing with Georgian society, of course. We are standing with our citizens, our friends, our families who are in the streets now, and asking the government actually to do the right thing for the future of our future generations.
All right, but politically, what can be done? Can the protesters ask Georgian Dream to step down? Can they force early elections? What kind of options are there out there?
Actually, by the Georgian constitution, they cannot ask for elections now, because elections are in October already, and we'll be waiting for the elections. But as far as I see, Georgian government is not stepping back. They are willing to accept this law, and it will, of course, negatively influence Georgia. It will negatively influence free media. It will negatively influence organizations, the democratic institutes that are working in Georgia. They will all be closed, and actually government is trying to establish dictatorship. And most of the Georgians who are standing in the streets now, they were born in free Georgia after the collapse of Soviet Union. So they are not going to give up. They are not going to give their positions to pro-Russian government. And, in my opinion, European politicians should be also very active. We see several of them visited Georgia, supported protesters, and we should not repeat what has been done in 2008. A lot of countries, I don't mean Poland or several more countries, who came to support Georgia in 2008. And today it is the time for political leaders in Europe, in democratic world, to support Georgia and to be more active, to do sanctions against Georgian government members who voted for Russian law. And generally, world society should be more actively should be more actively included in this process.
Right, and now looking at the Dream Party itself, do you think that they are now trying to introduce this law so hastily because of now the approaching elections in October?
It was not a good step to provocate Georgian society to get out of their homes and stand in the streets, because in a couple of months we are going to have elections. Though they did it because it was a direction from Russian side, and I'm sure that Georgian government is in a very close touch with Russians. And Georgian government is pursuing Russian interests in Georgia, unfortunately. And it was not the right time to do that because, as I mentioned, we're going to have elections in October. And I think those riots will stand till the elections will be held in Georgia.
All right, and just quickly, do you think Georgian Dream still has, after what they've done now, do they still have a chance of winning those elections coming up?
Yes, it is Russian influence, it is Russian finances that make them win the elections. It's falsificated elections that they did several times already, and I'm sure Georgian society will still stand against it now, and we will change political power very soon. And we need your support, guys. We need support of European political leaders, and you should be more active speaking about Georgia today, at least.
Of course, and we are, and we will. Mamuka Mamulashvili, Georgian National Legion. Sir, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.